Well, hello, hope you're all doing well and welcome back to the channel. And yes, I'm finally out again. So first of all, before we begin, I'm going to tell you exactly where I've been and why I've been away for so long. So I've taken about a month off. And the reason for that is there was numerous reasons. Number one, my eldest son, had the last couple of weeks at primary school before he heads to secondary school later in the year. So I really wanted to be present for him because those kind of moments don't happen again. So I wanted to be present for that. And the other reason is basically I was getting to a point where I was really starting to struggle. And in the creative field, I find if you try and force something to happen, I don't think it's ever going to happen. The worse it actually becomes, the more you try and force it. So I put everything away. I put the camera away, put the vlogging camera away, and I just stepped back from photography altogether and focused on doing jobs around the house just to do something completely different. So that's where I've been, and now we're back, and now we're up and running again, and I can't wait to get started again. So that's the other reason for kind of having a break. I needed that enthusiasm to come back and that energy to come back, and I finally feel as though I can get out and actually focus back on my photography and give it 100%. So with that in mind, I've come across to the northeast coast to meet up with James, and we're going to have a look around today at these various locations around the northeast coast. Now, these are areas I haven't visited before. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time further up the coast, up at Bamburgh and places like that, sea houses, all of that area. But this area of the coastline I haven't really explored. And when you see what's here, it's ridiculous, really. I mean, we've got this beautiful sea arch behind me here, with the water coming in. The colour of the water is just absolutely beautiful today as well. So I've got myself set up under a little bit of an alcove here, out of the way of the sun, not so much for that reason, but where I need to be to capture this arch, because we're quite close to it, I need a wide angle lens and I need to get a little bit further back. So I've placed myself under the arch back there to capture this first shot. And it's very much going to be a case today of kind of waiting around, because obviously you can see on my face it's quite harsh, the light today, but the tide is coming in, so we're getting a little bit of dynamics in the water. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got a shot kind of lined up and I think that's going to work, I'm going to get to the back of the camera and kind of walk you through what I'm thinking with this shot here. So nice to be back behind the camera again, and what I want to do is actually show you what I've got lined up here. So let's press record on the back of here. Remember how to do all this now. So you'll see the scene in front of me now. I've got it full aspect ratio, so 4:3 aspect ratio. And what I'm trying to do here is, you'll notice off to the right hand side there's quite a sort of a corner of sky, let's say. And I wanted to include that because although it's quite bright out there today and I'm having to really watch the highlights in that top corner, the clouds are quite interesting because they're obviously moving quite fast up there. And I think it just adds a little something to this, because obviously behind the arch itself, looking out to sea back that way, you're basically just seeing like a white sky almost. Now obviously we have a boat and there's a couple of things like flags and things like that out there, but really there's not a whole lot going on to actually frame anything back in that sort of corner of the image. So I want to use that corner of sky there is more like a point of interest. Obviously I'm under this little bit of an overhang here, so that's putting me in shade. But what I'm trying to actually do is, if you see the lower section of the screen, if I just kind of brighten this up a touch so you can see what I'm looking at, there you go. This lower section here, you can see where my focus point is, just on that section there. What I want to actually do is, I'm waiting for the waves to come in. I say waves, it's pretty calm today, but I want a little bit of action and a little bit of dynamics in that lower section of the frame there. So I'm just waiting for these waves to come in, just to add that little bit of white texture detail in the waves themselves, so you actually see that there's water movement there. So that's what I'm doing with this shot. You can also see that I've got the top of the arch itself up to the left there. A lot of it's going to be in shade, and I'm having to underexpose to get the shutter speed that I'm after, which is somewhere around 1/3 of a second to 1/4 of a second, somewhere like that. So to get that, I'm about 2 to 3 stops under to get that sort of shutter speed that I'm after. Now obviously what I could do is take 2 shots and blend them, but to be honest with you, I find with this camera I don't have to worry about that too much. What I'm really more concentrating on here is the cloud detail itself, so I really want to capture that cloud detail and not get sort of white hot spots going on. Same for the water as well, so there's lots to manage. But basically I'm using a remote trigger here. And basically just waiting for that water movement to happen as it comes in and grabbing the shot. But nothing particularly complicated. I may take a couple of shots, as I say, one for the sky, and I might take another shot at a normal sort of exposure for the rockwork itself. But to be honest, I think that's going to come back no problems at all. So hopefully, I'm going to wait around for 10-15 minutes, hopefully get this water movement, and when it does happen, I'll pop the shot up next for you. So we've just come a little bit further along the coast now, past that first arch we were shooting, and now we're going to go and shoot another arch which is a little bit further down the coastline and almost opposite a lighthouse. Which lighthouse is that?
I'll not tell you.
You're not going to? No, you'll not tell us, no.
It's a Suter lighthouse.
Suter lighthouse, is it? Suter lighthouse. Anyway, so we're going to shoot this sea arch looking the other way. And actually this viewpoint that we're coming up on, just the right height, because you don't want that sea arch clipping the horizon, for me anyway. So it's just the right height to be above and keep that below the horizon level. Now, as you'll have seen with the first image that I took, I did a long exposure as well as the normal exposure that I took first. And I popped both of those up, and I'm going to do something similar here, I think, because I quite like the texture on the water that this is giving over here, but also I think the long exposure is just simplifying things. So what I think I'll actually do is take a wider shot with the lighthouse and the arch and all this detail in there, and then I'll take probably a close-up shot using some long exposure, more of the archway itself, I think, with a longer lens. But I'm going to get set up. I want to show you the back of the camera because I think it's going to be the best way to kind of point out how I'm going to work this, and then I'll walk you through that. So I'll just show you the back of the viewfinder now, and what you should hopefully see is again 4x3 for this one, and what I've done is line the top of the horizon up with my first third, and also line the little arch out there on my intersection of that first third as well. Now I've got the lighthouse off to the left of the frame, and I think there's lots happening in this shot, but I think it works. It's not like overly cluttered, I don't think. So the only thing that I'm probably going to have to do here is, because we've got so many people knocking around, I think I'm going to clone those out just to kind of make it a cleaner image. But it might not be too much of an issue in the long exposure, because it might get rid of those people if they keep moving. But in the shot that I'm just going to take as a natural exposure at a faster shutter speed, it's going to be an issue, so I'll get rid of that. But what you'll also notice is how dark the sky is right behind the lighthouse, and that's really helping to separate that and add a little bit of almost depth and separate it from the background quite nicely. Obviously what will end up happening when I take a long exposure version of that is that sky's going to blur out and lose the texture. So what I tend to do when I'm doing long exposures is in most cases, I prefer the natural sky. So I'll replace the sky in the long exposure with the faster shutter speed of the sky. And it just gives a more natural feel to me anyway. I mean, I like the simplified version of the water, but I don't like it in the sky so much, not always anyway. So I think that's what I'm going to aim for here. So I'm going to take the natural shot first, just a normal exposure. So I'm at ISO 100, f16, a 50th of a second, and I'm currently at about 50 mil, I think, on this lens, which is obviously medium format. So I'm going to grab that shot first. 2-second timer, and that's that. Now what I'm going to do is pop a 10-stop case filter on, and just grab that now, pop that on, and I'm going to have to adjust the exposure. So I'll have a look through, and it's going to end up being, to get that where I want it, it's going to end up being about a 25-30 second exposure. So press record again on the back of here so you can see it's exactly the same composition. I haven't moved it at all. Just going to select that focus point again. There we go, which is just the edge of that spit of land there. I'll just make sure it's in the right place. There we go. Now I have to do this every time I look through here. I have to adjust that, but I'm just leaving the composition as it is, and I'm just going to take a shot for that water, basically, is all I'm doing it for. So set that off now, and that'll give it a 30-second shutter speed on the water, just to smooth it out. Now I'm going to pop both of these images up side by side, and let me know which one you prefer. Do you prefer the simpler look of the water, or do you prefer the natural texture to it? Let me know in the comments. So with this next shot that I was just talking about there, going a little bit closer, I've put the 100 to 200 lens on so I can get tighter in on that arch. So hopefully what you actually see is there's my horizon line right the way along the top on that top third, and that boat is just off to the right hand side of the arch there. And you can see I've got my focus point on the rocks just down in this lower right section of the image. It's a 4x3 again. I just think it works so much better for this. And I'm just waiting for a bit of this sunlight, which is currently kind of almost above us, but it's kind of giving a little bit of directional light down onto those rocks and just helping lift it a bit, especially with that really dark looming clouds behind there. It's just giving that little bit of a boost. So I'm just going to grab that shot now. Now, hopefully what you'll agree is I'm not actually going to do a shot for the water with this one, because what I really want to do is slow everything down and make it as simple as possible, because there's nothing really happening with the waves, there's nothing crashing, there's not really enough texture in the water for this shot, especially with it being so close up, that I think what I'm going to do with it is smooth that water right out using a 10-stop. About a 30-second exposure just to completely eradicate any texture at all and just give it an ethereal, really dreamy kind of a feel to the image. So as you can see, this is the final shot of the day, and it's something completely different from what we've been shooting. These beautiful wildflowers in front of this beautiful windmill here really sets the whole thing off. However, I've got a few issues with it. One of the major ones is there's a housing estate right behind it. So in order to capture this properly, what I'm having to do is get really low to the ground, as low as possible to capture more of the foreground flowers and eliminate more of the buildings in the background. Also, what I'm having to do is take multiple exposures. Obviously, we're right beside a road, as you can hear, and on top of that we've got breezes here. So what's happening is, obviously, these foreground flowers that I'm capturing have got movement in them, so I'm having to do a shutter speed fast enough to freeze that motion. And then on top of that, we also have a sky which is pretty damn bright today, because as you can see, when it's fairly early in the evening, so it's we're not getting that really nice warm light at the minute, but it's the time that I've got to shoot it because I'm moving on. So the good thing about it is we've got a lovely dark sky behind it, which I can make something of, but that means that I'm having to take various shots to make one image out of it. So that means I'm taking a shot with a couple of stops under so that I don't get any blown out highlights or anything like that in the sky. And then that's the sky shot. Then I'm having to take a shot for the foreground with the capturing, slowing that motion down in the foreground interest here to make sure there's nothing moving. And then on top of that, I'm having to focus that to make sure that I'm capturing everything in sharp focus. So a shot for the foreground, shot for the windmill itself, and then a shot for the sky in the background. So guys, now we've got that last image out of the way, I'm going to start heading back home now. So yeah, sorry it's a bit of a short video, but it's just been so fantastic to get back into shooting again, getting out there and just getting that passion back again. So it's been really enjoyable. So if you've liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video soon. Take care guys, thanks very much, bye bye.